Hi, this is Renee and Kent Miller, and we are here to do another in our series of prediction videos, prophecy, as received through Kent from our guides, the ancients. And this is done when Kent is in a deep meditation. So
these predictions are taken from June, July, and September of 2007.
So the first half will be June and July of 2007. And then there was several months that passed before we received more predictions. We were asked recently, several months ago, to start releasing these predictions a little bit at a time. And we will present them in written form in their exact original verbiage, the way that it was received. We will present our translation, but it is always up to you to decide what that means for you. And where appropriate, we will make recommendations as to how to prepare and any background information to help in the understanding. So we're going to bring up a PowerPoint. So it looks like we're talking about an insurrection at the Vatican.
Consternation of disobedience with insurrection. I wonder what that means.
Consternation is like shock and dismay. And that's going to be a result of some sort of disobedience with an insurrection.
So what's been happening for the last few years?
A lot of turmoil at the Vatican. Yeah. There's a lot of sexual abuse going on.
Pope resigning, this Pope's in trouble. A lot of things happen.
There's a long history of sexual abuse that has been neglected and has not been corrected. So that may be at least part of it.
Part of it, yeah. It said the holiness will show causation of insurrection. That's pretty much telling, or tell the abomination.
So I would think that the holiness is talking about the Pope himself,
That's
right?
What I think, yeah, possibly.
And he will show the cause of the insurrection, whether it's with him or that he is showing where, what is causing this uprising.
So when death comes, death will come to the apostle. Apostle could be the church itself. Could come quickly.
Or, well,
could be a person.
Generally, it refers to the original starters of the church, as in the apostles of Jesus. But in this instance, it's being used in a different sense.
Yeah, we're not sure exactly the exact meaning of this. And so the omniscient one, which is the creator.
Omnipotent.
Yes. Will that redirect religion to prevail, which means to open up to see the unseen atrocities.
And so there's probably a lot more going on than the public has been made aware of. And there certainly is some, the church has propagated understandings from ancient texts, and at least some of it in not a very correct manner.
Yeah,
that's going to be corrected in the future.
Yeah, so I presume the omniscient one, he will unmask the abusers of human emotion.
So the creator, God the creator, will unmask the abusers of human emotion, and that will be surreal.
Yeah.
And I think it goes back again to all this sexual abuse, right?
It could probably be that, but it's probably much more.
Could be.
The hidden things. Anyway, Orion is in the downward vibration, and that usually happens at the spring equinox. Now, I'm not sure what this exactly is referring to. Is it supposed to happen in the spring equinox, or is something else going to take place?
And the spring equinox falls around March 21st, so it has just passed.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is indicating a time frame when this is going to happen, although it's not telling us what year.
Yeah.
And again, although I think with the last video we mentioned a year as far as the stock market collapse, but generally speaking,
But I also
we are told no time involved.
Yeah.
Watch for the signs.
Because I also see a collapse coming in the near future. So I'm not sure which collapse is referring to.
Yeah, this Orion in the downward vibration, I believe it has to do with the declination of Orion, and that is where Orion in the summertime is in the southern hemisphere, and so we don't see it in the northern hemisphere. And in the fall, it starts to rise in the sky again, and so I would say probably fall. All of these above events probably fall somewhere in the summertime.
Yeah, that's what I think too.
Okay, so moving on.
There's
a number of signs going on.
Well, stars exploding, cosmic winds, insurmountable force. We already know that this is happening as far as stars exploding in the cosmos. And cosmic winds, we know we watched cosmic winds.
So a star exploding is talking about a supernova.
Oh, we know that. Okay.
And so the supernova, the star runs out of its energy source, and then what happens is it explodes and it blows off its outer shell, and it just sprays all this remaining particles out into the atmosphere in all directions. And with that, it comes a cosmic wind. And so as that is traveling through space, those particles are colliding with other particles in space, the atoms that exist in the atmosphere. And it fragments these particles and breaks them down. And the byproduct of that is gamma rays.
Yeah, and insurmountable force. I mean, we don't have the ability to stop it.
Right. And so in I believe it was 2015, astronomers, scientists discovered that there was this gamma ray wave coming in toward Earth from the galactic center.
Yeah, they didn't discover it then, they confirmed it then.
Well, regardless, it was announced publicly, and they weren't really sure what these gamma waves were all about. We were forewarned many years ago that there was going to be a supernova, and it was Earth was kind of going to be in the path of that, and it's part of our change. It's going to bring genetic changes because gamma rays have the capacity to change DNA.
Yeah.
The neutrons that are coming in and all these other charged particles are held within the ionosphere, which is up in the atmosphere. There's a layer around the Earth in the atmosphere that has all these charged particles in it. And so this interacts also in conjunction with the sun. So when we have a solar maximum where the sun is having EMPs, or we have a solar minimum where you have a hole in the sun's atmosphere that allows the escape of charged particles, what happens is that in an EMP or solar wind that is directed at Earth, it causes a blowing around and a disruption within the electromagnetic field.
Those particles are allowed to come into the Earth.
And so it creates like a hole in the electromagnetic field, and all those charged particles that are being held in the ionosphere are allowed through that hole in the electromagnetic field to shower down on Earth and on the inhabitants.
So with this, over a period of time, and I can't tell you how much time, but over a period of time, will raise a new species of humanity.
And that's because the neutrons combined with the gamma rays, their radiation, are designed to change the DNA. It's going to mutate the DNA. Now, there's a difference between the right amount of exposure and an overexposure. An overexposure to the radiation is going to damage DNA. But if we are to watch the activity of the sun and avoid being outside when we know that the Earth is going to be showered with these charged particles, the radiation, say when we have a geomagnetic disturbance, then stay inside. And we're not being subjected to harsh amounts of radiation.
You may watch spaceweather.com
right,
to get some of this information, which we kind of follow. So that's a good start. So,
yes, it is. And so this is what's going to cause the rise of this new species.
Yeah, so an astute behavior rises to the surface, a thin line to communication.
So when we have a genetic upgrade, this is going to allow the human race to be able to communicate telepathically with other spiritual and physical beings.
Yeah, from outside. So preponderance of evidence against man's absurd behavior to self-interest.
Now, this is jumping topics here. But,
yeah, this is what's been the humanity's downfall for many years.
But it's really culminating at this point. So all this truth is being leaked out now. About a year ago, we were told truth is coming out. And over the course of the year, a lot of truth has been leaked about what's going on at the higher levels of our
mankind itself.
System.
Yeah.
And
this is worldwide. This is not just geared to one continent.
Right. So there's going to be even more evidence. There's just going to be so blatantly obvious that the people at the top have been acting in a way that is to their own self-interest and not that of the general public.
So in September, those things we just covered were June and July. Now we jump to September of 2007. Litigious ordinance of precognition, which has to do with universal laws and concepts.
I've got a question mark here because I'm not sure. Litigious and ordinance both kind of apply that there's some sort of law here. Mm-hmm. Ordinance could be coming from, like, say, God the Creator, a deity.
Yeah, or it could be an ordinance of universal limit.
It could be just in alignment with universal law. Yeah. So there was just a suggestion here that maybe it has to do with universal law, and precognition is a part of that. So at some point, with this genetic change, we will also participate in and be able to have this precognition of events that are coming.
Yeah, then we'll be learning universal laws and concepts and understanding what their value.
Right, and so when the telepathic communication starts to be that the human race is enabled to be able to engage in telepathic communication and precognition, then the Creator will be able to enforce the concepts that are coming, where we are going to be taught higher levels of understanding.
So the Creator is ready to reinforce the concepts to come. Okay.
Right.
And
so higher levels of understanding.
Right. And a neutral axis.
Now we're changing subject again.
Yeah. A neutral axis, Saudi Arabia to fold. And that's probably things to come, because Saudi Arabia has been in somewhat, I guess you could use the word trouble, lately, in the last year or so, about the last year. So we got to see where this goes. We don't really know where it goes, but it's going to impact the world.
Yeah, we're not sure what this means, but again, when it happens, we'll know.
And Israel's back to the sea. They'll be forced into some kind of event that's going to push their backs to the sea.
And again, that is our translation. Yeah. When it happens, we will completely understand these predictions.
Yeah, and at the same time, Lebanon cries. Lebanon used to be a wonderful place. A haggle away to corruption, the disposition of all that is. Lebanon used to be a godly country at one time.
So evidently there's a lot of corruption going on in Lebanon, and all that is the changing energy within the universes as it meets its goals of higher conscious intellectual understanding. So it's they call it a fluctionable. So it means that it has the ability to change and its flow, its ebb and flow, but everything should be moving in the direction of expanding universal consciousness.
Yeah. So now we're going to change subject again. I saw a virus, a worldwide virus, and we don't know what the virus could be. We hear a lot about Ebola and different things, but it's going to happen.
So be prepared for that. I like to have N95 masks on hand. They filter out viruses. They can be found at any of your hardware stores like Home Depot, Lowe's, that sort of thing. You can get a big box of them for $20. They are reusable as long as you don't touch the inside of them. And you probably want to have some sort of like antibacterial hand gel, and wash your hands thoroughly and frequently.
Well, we heard a story about during the plague, farmers were not getting as sick as those in the cities, and a researcher went out to one of the farms and was searching around and found onion halves cut in various rooms, and the lady of the house there told her, well, that kept the virus away. So he asked her if he could have one of the halves and research it, and she said yes. When he took the halves back to his lab, he looked into the half onion that he had, peeled it back, took a
slice and put it under the microscope.
That was full of virus.
So this is saying that if you're dealing with people in your family who have some sort of a viral infection, perhaps it would be a benefit to take an onion and cut it in half and put it in all the rooms so that it absorbs the virus out of the air and helps to keep other people from getting sick.
I have a question for you. If you take a half an onion and put it in the refrigerator, will it absorb the different things that are given off by the foods inside of it?
Probably.
So we'll have to see.
That's a guess. There's other things you can do too. I really recommend that people start to think about herbal medicine. Do your homework. There's a lot of good books out there. And I have recently discovered a couple of really good books that they are an augmentation to antibiotic therapy. So there's certain herbs that will work in conjunction with antibiotics and against virals to be able to overcome these drug-resistant bacteria and these superbugs. So you can do your homework there.
We can't give the information out beyond that, but you can do your own research and get the information that you need.
There's lots of books on Amazon that fall into that category.
Signs of the times. So I did have a vision in meditation, and I saw a huge underwater movement. A huge underwater movement. I'm not sure what the underwater movement is, except the water itself is moving the other side of the world and creating these huge tsunamis.
Okay. So this is not saying the tsunamis in this particular one.
The word tsunami is not used, but I did see a huge underwater movement. The water, when it moves, maybe due to the earth change or whatever it is. But
would it be maybe like polar ice caps being melted?
It could be, because I saw small continents, smaller islands being totally overwhelmed.
Okay. So where would some of these safe places be?
Well, just a few. The White Mountains of Arizona. I'm thinking out here in the States, but there's other places in the world that are considered safe places, such as the Sedona and Northern Canyons in New Mexico.
The other places
plateaus
were high,
Peru, the
high altitude.
Yeah, the very high altitude places.
So now they're saying that there's, at some point in the future, the Midwest of the United States is going to suffer from both drought and cold. This year, this past winter, has been exceptionally cold.
Yes, here where we are now. And I saw the east coast and the west coast basically disappearing. So there's a lot of things that are coming. The year don't have a year at all.
But also getting back to the Midwest is that corn crop will fail.
The corn crop fails, and you got a lot of fuels made from
that's
corn.
Going to drive the price of fuel up because, of course, now they're using ethanol as such a large part of gasoline makeup, right? And that's coming, the ethanol is made from corn.
And why is it trying to do this? Why is all this happening? Earth itself is going to try to equalize and balance itself.
So Earth is really out of balance right now.
The living organism.
And that is from everything that we have been doing to it. So we have to be very introspective as to what our part is as far as humanity is concerned. But keep in mind is that sometimes we get off into some territory that really does not correlate with what we're being told through the meditations.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, our guides are not too concerned about the carbon emissions. They're saying the volcanic activity is spewing much more carbon into the air and at higher altitudes having a larger effect than our carbon emissions.
Than man's
emissions, we are polluting the earth. So with all this chemistry, that is causing a lot of disruption in the natural world. The other thing is that we're pulling uranium out of the soil. The uranium is a power base for the earth, so we're disrupting the earth's power base.
Well, anyhow, we can't do what we're doing. So we've got to find an alternative.
Carbon emissions, methane, stuff like that is not really the big concern for our spiritual guides. And keep in mind, they've been telling us for years that one, the earth is going to be warmer. That is being predicted. Eventually it will cool down and we will have a mini ice age, but that's not going to be for 40 or 50 years.
Well, we don't know.
And
we don't know exactly.
We don't know exactly,
age, but it'll get warmer.
It'll
afterwards.
be in the future, not too distant future. And some of these other changes, the axis is going to shift.
Yeah,
and the
earth is going to shift. We don't know the
poles are
timeline.
going to reverse, and that's already starting.
Well, yeah, in our lifetime, we're going to see the pole shift and the earth movement. We can't say in such a date, but in our lifetime, we will see this happen.
And so these things are not a result of the greenhouse gases.
No.
That is being propagated by certain people.
This is a cycle.
This is a cycle that is predicted to rebalance the earth. And if you're going to prepare, you've got to move with that movement, but also move away from water. That's going to be very important.
Well, water sets its ocean. Now,
ocean.
If you got a pond or a lake, you don't have to move away from that. But the large
rivers and oceans, you want to move. Okay. You want to get away from that.
It's all trying to equalize. No, it said right now that in 2007, September, said the hurricanes were quiet, but much more to come, and surely it has.
And last year was really a tragic year for hurricanes.
For Harvey, yes. So Antares nebulous. So Antares and Sirius will meet. The plans are being laid. Now, then we're not talking about two worlds, two constellations, two etc. colliding. I feel, and I think I'm correct on this, I was going to my legs, that two entities, two types of peoples will meet.
So the two cultures are meeting and making plans, not that these planets or constellations are going to collide.
So, many years, enlightenment is moving forward. And I don't like to use the word enlightenment, but anyhow.
People understand what that means. Enlightenment means to shed light on and to give and impart knowledge to. Yeah. So it's correct. Yeah. He just doesn't like it because it's misused
so much.
Right.
Yeah, and many are coming. Many will become, she says, enlightened. And so that this gives Earth, humanity, those that are part of this group or this movement, it gives them a chance to survive.
So Earth has a chance of moving forward, and its inhabitants will be pushed forward into a new era of higher genetic expression and a higher intelligence, the ability to
it's a higher level of learning and understanding.
Right.
What the value of being here is.
And that fits into the next cycle of conceptual learning. Mm-hmm. So conceptual learning meaning that we will be able to take all these separate ideas and connect the dots so that we have a broad picture and broad understanding of that concept.
Yeah. So with that information that we've given you today, that you can mull over and see what you feel about it. You know, we can't say our information is absolutely correct because we learn from others also, and we are students and teachers at the same time, and you can be the same.
And many of these things, you can see it developing. The prediction developing once the field starts to show it. But before then, it's real hard to decipher what that prediction actually means. So we are going to thank you for joining us, and you have a wonderful week. Peace be with you on your journey to truth.
Take care.
Thank you. Bye now.